reason that I use Alliance's services, or that I started working with Alliance, really comes down to time. In this business, time is money, and you really got to focus on the things that make you money. I mean, there's all sorts of things that can take your time up and that you'll spend time doing that don't necessarily, in the end, result in a paycheck. Short sales are not an easy process. They're kind of a messy process, but they're, in this day and age, a necessary evil, so to speak. They're a process that's happening, and it's just something that it's a choice, you know, whether or not you want to be involved in it. And I don't think really in this market it is a choice. I think if you want to be successful in the real estate market this day and age, then short sales and bank houses are something that you're going to have to learn to do. So my decision to use Alliance services really came down to time. You know, the ability to be working on multiple files at the same time, some of which are short sales, some of which are not. It really just came down to, I could take my file to somebody who knew what they were going to do with it, that knew what the banks were looking for, that knew what the process was about, that would get the job done, or quite frankly tell me this is a job that's not going to get done and this is the reason why. And if that can happen without wasting hours of my time, that's invaluable. So. I think that the real moment, or the real value that I saw in Alliance from the get-go was, you know, again, it comes back to the time, but it was from my previous experience negotiating short sales. I have negotiated some short sales on my own. I've done them in the past. They weren't necessarily, you know, as necessary back in the day when I started negotiating them myself. But I had some clients that you know, had run on some hard times and needed that sort of service, and so I provided it with them. And what I realized is that every bank, every lending institution has its own criteria. It's got its own process. And when you're negotiating these short sales, if you don't understand what bank you're dealing with, or what lending institution you're working with, and what their process is, then you're starting from ground zero every time. So it was a simple case of, you know, let the experts take over. I mean, I don't want to learn this process for every bank out there, you know, for Countrywide or B of A, or, you know, everyone has their own process. And that really, to me, was kind of initially it was like, let's give this a shot and see how they perform, because I know what it takes. I've done it. And if they can curb that for me and get the job done, well, then it's going to be a win-win. So. I focus a lot on that, you know, that 80-20 principle. You get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts, typically, and so you really got to focus on where you're going to spend your time. And I preach to my whole team and all the agents that work for me that you really want to stay in your 20. You know, every day when they're doing something, I ask them, hey, is that your 20? Especially, obviously, if it's not, you know, just a little nudge, hey, is that your 20? But, you know, it really brings you back to focus. What is it that I got to do to make some money? And, you know, this industry is about prospecting, it's about being on the phones, it's about networking, and any minute that they're not doing those things is a minute that they're essentially losing the option or the possibility to create more money for themselves. And, you know, one of the things the short sale process takes is hours of countless hours on the phone, you know, and if you're sitting on the phone with an asset manager or on hold for 45 minutes or an hour, I mean, how many phone calls does that equal? You know, how many prospects have you lost because you wasted, you know, in a 1 week's time period working on 2 or 3 different short sales? If you spend 8 hours on the phone, you know, that's 8 valuable hours. You can be doing so many other things. So that really comes back to that, you know, what's your 20, what do you want to focus on? And, you know, from my outlook, my experiences, they get the job done, or they tell me why they can't, you know, again, saving me time and effort. And when they say they can do it, here's what you got to do. They line out all the paperwork for you. These are the forms you're going to need. This is what the bank's going to want to know. And literally, the packet of information they give you about this is what you need to have is, again, invaluable. You know, you sit down with the client one time, you explain to them this is everything you're going to need. This is everything I'm going to need. This is what I need from you to provide, you know. And once you get all that information, then you submit the packet. You know, it keeps you from having weeks of communication with your client. Oh, I need this. Wait, I need this. Oh, we forgot this. Now I need to update this because it's been so long that, you know, your bank statements are now a month old. I get it all up front from them. Submit the packet. It's quick. It's easy. It's done. You know, if I had to do the math on it, they say that a typical buyer will take about 40 hours of your time. from the time that you meet them, do initial buyer consultation, help them search for homes, write a contract, and close, intermittently, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So, if I were to spend 20 hours a week on the phone, I'd say I'm losing, a buyer every other week. So I'm losing 2 buyers a month. Median price range in Spokane is about $175. So you're talking a commission rip of around $5,000. You lose 2 of those, you're losing about $10,000 a month.
Ouch.
Legitimately,
sure.
If you miss 2 buyers a month because you're negotiating short sales.
Sure. Right.
Anytime you're working with somebody, it really comes down to communication. I run a pretty large team. I got 8 to 10 agents that are working for me all the time, as well as myself. I have a full-time support staff. I have a administrative assistant who does all of my file transaction coordination, and an admin person that does all of my marketing and advertising. And the key is allowing those people to work with Alliance and allowing those people to make the whole process, because the less time that it takes from me, again, it goes back to the 20. My 20, as well as not negotiating short sales, is also not being on the phone with Alliance necessarily every 5 minutes or every day. So it's letting them tell me what they need or what I'm going to need, making sure that I provide that to them completely the first time, and then having very clear communication about the timelines. I think the biggest thing that happens in this process is working with Alliance. We've developed a relationship to where we know what they expect, they know what we expect, and setting that up takes some time. Anytime you work with somebody, you're going to have to work the kinks out at the beginning, but we've really gotten to the point where it's just a smooth process. My administrative assistant knows everyone there, knows who to call about what file. They know her. I mean, literally, it's the amount of time that it's freed me up and still been able to close transactions is tremendous. I can list short sale properties. I have a good idea of where I'm going to start them. I have a good idea of probably where they're going to sell. I know when the price reductions are coming. That gives me the opportunity to double side deals, which I think is another huge opportunity when it comes to talking about short sales. Literally, it probably has saved me, in retrospect, when I think about it, it's saved me from hiring probably another full-time employee, another full-time admin in my office, because it really would be a full-time job. 1, no. 2, maybe. But if you get into the point where you're trying to negotiate anywhere between 5 or 10 short sales continuously, it's a full-time job for somebody. The nice part is that a full-time admin in my office costs me money every month, whether those deals end up closing or not. The ability for me to work with Alliance is that they're motivated to get paid when I get paid, and at the same point in time, we work on a deal for a week or 2 weeks, and I should really say if they work on a deal for a week or 2 weeks and something doesn't happen, I'm not paying for it, So again, it's the ability to leverage, Not only have I leveraged my time, now I can leverage my dollars. I think in the last 2 months, I've gotten 4 short sale approvals. One of them I double-sided, actually 2 of them I double-sided, so I'm thinking it's about $35,000.
And on a double-sided commission, did you get your commissions totally hammered, or was Alliance able to help you with that?
Both of them were full, so that's, like I said, those were $10,000 a pop. So 2 of those, and then another, I think, smaller one. And I had one about 45 days ago that it was a single-sided deal, but it was a full commission. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So full commission in your market, 6%.
Correct. 6% full commission.